Everybody knows me as a self-esteem expert on X-Weighted. How I became a self-esteem expert, I have no idea. I've done people's hair for 26 years, and when you do that, apparently you become great at helping people with their self-esteem. One of the things that I enjoy talking about the most, and it's one of the things that I get asked to speak about the most, is success, because apparently I'm also successful. And I have a question for everybody here in the audience. Does anybody know what is one of the most singularly important things that we've all had to experience in order to become successful? I see a couple of people who were here from yesterday, so they probably know I was talking a lot about it, but I think it's the one most important thing that anyone who is going to be successful needs to have experienced. Anyone know what that is? Failure, yes. Nobody likes to talk about failure. We don't like being failures. We avoid failure. We try to focus on things that we're really good at so we don't have to fail at anything. We're raising our children to teach them not to fail by doing things that are really easy and then telling them they're amazing without actually forcing them or encouraging them to do anything amazing. I was also talking yesterday that we are now dealing with a generation of children that we're nurturing to be successful and amazing and brilliant without sending them out in the world and setting them up so that they can fail every once in a while so that they will learn how to become resilient, which will lead to success. I have been very lucky to maintain a sense of confidence in my life, and when you are confident and look confident and project an image that speaks to confidence, people think that will make you successful. But I've experienced in my own life that sometimes my confidence, my overwhelming amount of confidence, has also led me to fail colossally, and I have failed. Three of the areas that I would identify the most that I've failed in. Number one is sports. I'm not an athlete. It's quite obvious that I probably in public school didn't excel in sports because I was 4 feet tall, gay, and ran away from every ball that was thrown at me. So I never got to be picked on anybody's team. I was always the guy who would rather hang out in the girls' side of the gym watching them play volleyball than be on the boys' side of the gym being forced to play basketball. So I never excelled in sports. So I didn't really care about being an athlete, but it wasn't until I was 38 years old and decided to take swimming lessons that the trainer that I was working with encouraged me, because I became a very good swimmer, to start thinking about competing in triathlons. I thought he was absolutely nuts. And within 6 months, I did my first triathlon, and I realized, wow, I've sucked at something for so long. I've never been successful at being an athlete, and here I am at 38 years of age, competing in triathlons. Boy, that makes me feel great. I wasn't expecting to be successful there, and I wasn't really a successful triathlete, but I was able to experience what it felt like to be an athlete, where for 38 years of my life, that was something that I completely failed. The other area of my life where I was a colossal failure is that as, interestingly, a television personality, because I'm known as being a very successful television personality, and the success of X-Weighted airing in 70 countries around the world. It's interesting that I can go to South America, and there are people in South America who actually recognize me because X-Weighted is so popular down there. And yes, it makes me feel incredibly successful as a personality, but before I got to be successful on TV, I really sucked on TV. And the reason why nobody knows that is because nobody watched the things that I was doing on TV because they were so bad. In the early 90s, I was asked to be a style and fashion commentator for a very popular television show on CBC. And I was extremely confident in my abilities as this super stylish guy. And I was supposed to make regular appearances on national TV for CBC. I made one appearance that had to be taped twice, edited so much just to make me even presentable on TV, and I was never asked to come back. And so I thought by being asked to host this style segment for CBC that this television career of mine was going to be launched, and I would be incredibly successful. And I was very happy that I had clients to go back to so that I could continue cutting their hair and paying my rent, because I was not going to make it on TV anytime soon. Shortly after that, I was asked by Cable 10, does everybody know what Cable 10 is?
Yeah.
Keating, Cable 10, they came to me and said, Fred, you're so cool, you're so dynamic, why don't you have a show on Cable 10? And I thought, that would be great, I'll have a TV show on Cable 10. Well, apparently I was so difficult to deal with, and my expectations were so high, after 3 shows on Cable 10, they asked me never to come back, ever. And so I certainly thought my television career was over, because I thought anybody could have a TV show on Cable 10. You don't have to be good at anything, and you can have a TV show on Cable 10. And they just told me never to come back. So being on TV was sort of off the horizon for me. And I spent the next number of years of my life trying to get really, 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 really good at everything that I did. I really started focusing on my business, and after numbers of years of making some really bad business choices, failing at business, which people think is funny because they again think that I'm so successful at business because I bought the Bank of Nova Scotia on the corner of Agricola and North, which had closed down because it had been robbed so many times, and converted it into, I think there's images of it going on back here. What's happening back here really has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. It's just there so that I look really good. Show you how successful I am and everything that I've accomplished. Are there even images up there? Were there? Okay. They're gonna come back. And so I bought this bank that had been robbed so many times, turned it into this amazing business, filled it with things that speak to luxury, and we've created a community in the North End around what we did by purchasing this bank. And so everybody thought I'm just so successful. Well, prior to that, I made so many bad business choices. When I was much younger as an entrepreneur and also a clothing designer, I had been asked to design the uniforms for the Canada Games. Being filled with confidence, I thought that I could pull this off, no problem. I went about trying to fill this contract with the government to design the uniforms for the Canada Games. I thought I was so talented, so confident, I knew absolutely everything that I needed to know. So without consulting a lawyer to negotiate contracts, without dealing with accountants to help me with the financial aspect of this job, I just embarked on this journey to design the uniforms for the Canada Games when I was 20 years old without any help from anybody else, which anyone in business will tell you that is so stupid. Because in order to be successful at business, you've got to go to the people who are smarter than you, know more than what you do in a particular area so that they can help you be great at what it is you want to do. I was so confident, I didn't think I needed those people. And I ended up losing the contract for the Canada Games. I blamed the government. I blamed everybody else. I did not at all take any responsibility for that because I thought I was just so amazing. And I think that's where when you're told you're amazing, it can be really a problem because sometimes you believe you are without actually having to do anything amazing. And so I also, in purchasing the Bank of Nova Scotia, had to fail about 12 times trying to buy it before someone would finally help me out. I thought this was going to be an easy deal. I'm known in the business community. I've had a thriving salon. I'm popular. Surely the bank is going to give me money. I put together a business plan that everybody thought sucked. All the banks said no. I went back to the table again, put together another business plan, which sucked. And everybody said no. And I kept going back to the table, and my real estate agent was telling me to can it. All of the banks that I was working with were telling me that there was no way a commercial bank was going to finance the purchase of the bank in the North End of Halifax that was robbed so much they had to close. And if the Bank of Nova Scotia couldn't be successful, what in the hell made me think I could be successful? Well, I kept going back to the table and I kept innovating and I kept putting together a new plan. I kept improving the presentation that I was making to these people. I was doing everything that I could to be taken seriously because I wanted to be successful and I would not take no for an answer. And one of the things that I realized about myself was that it's resiliency and not being afraid to fail that really allows people to be successful. And so it's through the failures that I've experienced in all areas of my life that I'm standing here right now, talking to everybody who's at this event today, because it's obvious that we have opportunities in our lives to improve and become successful at anything it is we want to accomplish. But I think the most important thing when it comes to success is really focusing on the failures in our life. And all of the most successful people that I've spoken to, whether it's athletes, whether it's the people who have accomplished the most on X-Weighted, and yesterday I didn't speak very much about some of the incredibly inspiring people that I was able to interact with on X-Weighted. And it was through working with those individuals who failed the most that ended up accomplishing the most and achieving the greatest success on that show. And it's the people who failed the most, learned what they did wrong, improved it, went back to the table, or did what they had to do to be able to better achieve their goal, that actually accomplished things at the end of the show. And those are the people that I still have relationships with. Those are the people that I admire, because it's through the amazing difficulty that they had to face in their lives. And it's not just difficulty by saying no to hot dogs and cupcakes. That's really easy. It's the individuals on the show who had tremendous challenges dealing with disabled children, being a single mother, on welfare, raising a disabled child, and you plan to cycle across British Columbia with your kid on the back in a trailer? British Columbia, which is incredibly mountainous, and you're gonna do that, and you're 60 pounds overweight? How is that possible? And when I saw Charla, through all of her trials and tribulations, stay focused on what she wanted to accomplish, and put her 15-year-old daughter, who weighed even more than she did, on a bike, on the back of her bike, they were on a tandem bike, and cycle through the Okanagan Valley. She accomplished something that she never thought she could accomplish, and she did so by failing at it so many times. Charla is one of my heroes, because Charla failed. And we are so afraid of failing because we think it's going to make us losers. And we don't like losers. We do everything we can to avoid having losers around us, because losers bring us down. But being a loser and being a failure are two completely different things. A loser is someone who knows they're capable of something and doesn't do it. A loser is someone who does everything they can to keep the people around them from doing things they know they're capable of doing. A loser is someone who doesn't offer people support. A loser is someone who doesn't want people around them to succeed. A loser is someone who doesn't want people around them to recognize their inner magical abilities or their opportunities for greatness. But a failure, someone who has failed, is someone who has at least attempted to do something, make a difference, challenge themselves, but has not succeeded. I think there's great, what is the word I'm looking for? I admire people who have failed. I like to associate with people who have failed, people who have set out on a journey to improve themselves, have struggled a little bit, have failed, learned from those failures, moved forward, learned something, and actually accomplished something as a result of their failures. So I think we should stop avoiding failure. I think what we need to do is really look at our children and think, what are we doing by telling our children that they're amazing? What are we doing by telling our children that they shouldn't fail at anything? That they are successful even though they suck at everything? I think that's a little bit of a problem.